have a little good news regarding the trails that were damaged during the January fires in and around Los Angeles. According to the Santa Monica Mountains Task Force, assessments were made on 28 trails in Topanga and Will Rogers State Park that were burned during the Palisades fire. That means, of course, that plans are now underway to do the necessary repairs. I suspect that's going to take a while. In the meantime, we must continue hiking. And I found some trails in the Los Angeles area that weren't impacted by the fires. And here's a good one with major views to the San Gabriel Mountains. We begin at this smallish parking area off the Angeles Crest Highway. Now, as always, directions to the trailhead are in the description. I feel obliged to mention that this is a more than 2,000-foot climb up a fairly well-graded trail and then a fire road. From my perspective, the route is rarely steep, but a good workout nonetheless. Now, I'm conditioning for an upcoming backpacking trip in Death Valley, so this is perfect for me. And yes, that video will show up on the channel, and it's going to be great. The trail leaves the highway noise and briefly descends to the bottom of Colby Canyon, where it crosses the creek, which I understand flows into late spring, maybe early summer. The shady trail follows the water course for a little bit, leaping over it 3 times, and then we start to climb out of the canyon. There are a few thigh-burning segments along the way, but for the most part, the uphill walking isn't horrible, but it is consistent. Soon, the trail hits the spine of a minor ridgeline and keeps on going up. And then we can see our next challenge, where the trail crosses to another canyon and then heads up the other side where there are switchbacks galore. These all head to Josephine Saddle, way above us. About 1.5 miles into the climb, we come to this rather impressive view of Strawberry Peak off to the right. Some people say it looks like an upside-down strawberry. Yeah, well, maybe. At any rate, I've included a link to my video of the climb to that summit, and it's a doozy. And up we go, occasionally passing charred remnants from a past forest fire. The area has been torched so much, it's hard to say which conflagration cooked this tree. From the ridge way down there. I counted 6 switchbacks on this climb, and this is number 5. Phew, number 6, almost to the saddle. Wait a minute. That's number 7. The saddle's right above me. I don't know how much more I have to go. Well, crap. That's number 8. Jeez. This is going on forever. When we see this cistern, the anticipation is over and we've reached Josephine's saddle. And just to let you know, if you were to go to the right on this trail, it would take you to trailheads for Strawberry Peak and Mount Lawler. Or if you went all the way to the end of this trail, you would come to Red Box, a considerable distance up the highway from where we parked. As for us, we continue to the left. After a few minutes with a pleasant level respite under a tree canopy, the trail joins the Josephine Peak Road, where we veer to the right with the backside of Josephine Peak in front of us. In case you're wondering, the peak was named for Josephine Lippincott, whose husband surveyed the mountains around here about 100 years ago. In fact, he used the summit to triangulate other landmarks. Or Josephine was the daughter of a local rancher named Phil Beck. Both sources that I came across seem to think their version was the correct one, but I haven't found any definitive story about it. By the way, the road is another route up the peak. It's a little shorter by maybe a quarter mile, and for some isn't as scenic. In case you want to try it, I've included a link in the description to my video about that hike. Now, I look up and it feels like I'm near the top, but the road just keeps going and going and going. But that's me. I always do this. I think I'm almost there, wherever there is, and then realize, I have a ways to go. I really should learn how to just enjoy the walk and forget about all that, right? Finally, the road curves around just below the peak, and we take a steep, short trail to the summit, where there is some telecommunications equipment. Yay! From here, we are surrounded by views into the mountains, as well as toward the coast and desert. There are remnants here of a fire tower that was built in 1938 and burned down in 1975. Or some references say 1976. Anyway, it was one of a long series of forest fires around here. This one was called the Mill Fire, or maybe the Big Tahunga Fire? I went down a deep rabbit hole and couldn't confirm either story. Just like that Josephine naming business. Are we sensing a pattern here? I do know this, whichever fire it was, it won't be the last. Here's a bit of geographic trivia. Much of the precipitation that hits this spot comes from the Pacific Ocean traveling east. Now, when a weather front hits the San Gabriel Mountains, by the way, that's what these are, it forces the clouds upward. That's known as orographic lift. That forces the clouds to dump some of their moisture. Now, in the case of Josephine Peak, much of that runoff goes down to Big Tujunga Creek. You know, only Mr. Hall tells you this kind of stuff.
No surprise, the return trip heads back the same way we came up. Navigation around here is uncomplicated. Well, do be sure not to miss the junction where the trail meets the road, which is about a mile down from the summit.
That was a good hike.